Alright guys, Scrappy again today. Hope you're doing good and enjoying your day. So far, one match remains at the Call of Duty World Championship 2025. It's the Grand Finals. OpTic Texas versus Vancouver Surge. Surge have now made 3 Grand Finals this year on land. The first 2, they didn't win a map. OpTic have not lost a map so far this tournament, but who knows? So many major storylines going in today. Can OpTic close out after one of the most dominant weekends that we've ever seen in the history of competitive Call of Duty? So many storylines to get into today. Very much enjoyed your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. I greatly appreciate it. Big thanks to PrizePicks supporting the content today as well. If you guys want to get involved in daily fantasy, use code BreakingPoint, link in the description box below, claim $50 in your first $5 pick. These are some of the numbers for today. Mercules, can you believe it? His line is a 1.19 KD. This kid came in a couple of weeks ago, and he might be the best player in the world. If you want to get involved, as I say, link in the description box below. Play responsibly if you choose to. Let's crack on with the video. Who is going to win this championship today? Mercules has been the player of the tournament so far, without a doubt. I keep talking about it with Don on the pre-show. Don's like, look, this kid is due a bad series. He's not had a bad series yet. 1.4, 1.4, 1.8. Like, the guy's absolutely out of control. And just to quickly comment on the event and the setup and everything, because again, there was talk last night. It was the losers finals, Boston versus Surge. It was on like 3 in the morning in the UK for some reason. I don't really know why they set the timelines up like that. And plenty of people in Kitchener were like, no, I want to go, grab some food, go to bed, whatever, come back tomorrow. And, obviously the venue has not exactly been mega. Obviously OpTic winning has helped things and gathered some momentum. And I think it seems pretty loud in there, all things considered. But yeah, no doubt that for the final match of yesterday, given it was to determine who the championship grand finalist was going to be, it could have been more buzzing, let's say. And apparently Kaysun revealed that they Ultra Champs would not have been given it in Kitchener if the league was aware. Like, the league would have vetoed it. It's just they said, oh yeah, Ultra, you want to host it? Yeah, great, Toronto, like, awesome job. Like, we'll let you host it. Probably expecting it to be in Toronto or something. Then it wasn't. So, I don't know, maybe that's a bit of speculation in there. We shall see. Ringcore and the Heretics, they bomb out top 4 in the end. FaZe will be frustrated about this because these Heretics cats, they keep knocking them out of the tournament and then just getting bopped out the next round. But it's happened a couple of times now. But it is what it is. Super frustrating, I think, for Miami, because I think many were of the feeling that if these guys had made the grand finals, they at least could have made it competitive. I think Surge could. Like, frankly, Boston, as well as they performed this weekend, and I'm really impressed with them, and the fact that, like, the fight that they showed yesterday to nearly make it back to another, the grand finals and beating Surge was really impressive. But if Boston made the finals, like, this finals was cooked. At least Surge make things a little interesting because they've had finals experience before. The talent on that team is pretty unquestionable, but it's also pretty unquestionable the level that OpTic are presently playing at, because Boston, they won 6-2 in the search yesterday. They lost the red card. The red card, they actually made it really close down the stretch. They lost the vault control, but fair play to Boston. They actually won the Skyline hardpoint. They finally won a hardpoint on the weekend. We know that they were setting themselves up here really as a bit of a Neslo team, but they win this 250-188. They had some controller issues before the Game 5 on the Nastie side of things, and then the Game 5 concludes and Boston bow out of the tournament. So it was a commendable run from the breach to get to top 3, beating Miami in Game 5 round 11, beating, of course, Thieves in Game 5 earlier on, and then it goes to a red card in the end, and Surge, have what it takes to overpower them. So just awesome from Boston. I know they'll be gutted about the way that this ended, but I also think if you're Boston, 3rd is not where you wanted to be. Like, of course, they would have liked to have made it back to the grand finals, but I will say that Boston will have known deep down if they made that finals today, there was no chance they were going to win that based on, like, their scrims, I imagine, against OpTic in the recent month or so, and what happened just yesterday, right? So I think that Boston will probably recognize that realistically they were never going to win this tournament anyway, so I don't think they can be too unhappy with 3rd. Maybe the EWC will give them a better opportunity. I will also quickly say, Boston said the following: see you all for EWC and next season, smiley face, which kind of implies that they might be sticking around, right? As an organisation, they might still be here next year. I know that there's been talk about whether they will be, and if they are, do they run it back with the same team? I don't think they should. I think Snoopy and Purge have been a great duo. it must be said that the fact that this team has been greater than the sum of its parts does not take away from the fact that the ARs have been pretty lackluster for the majority of the season. They put together a couple of Nislos to get to top 3, but I still think that they should think about where they go from here. Shout out PerJ though, man. Jacob says, shout out PerJ, man. Guy's got a phenomenal arrow. So, there's fewer and fewer players like that in this plummet era. But Surge, they make the grand finals. I mean, they made one in a minor, didn't they, as well? And they made 2 grand finals on LAN this year. They got bopped out 4-0 in both of them. This is going to be the third one that they're going to make during the course of the season. And look, maybe this one opens up another opportunity because, look, OpTic turned up to Championship Sunday last year playing New York and they won it in the end pretty dominantly. They would be expected to do the same thing again today. But I do think that Surge can put up a fight. Neptune on the roster. Abuzah's been really good. I think, occasionally the players are a bit open to some sinkers, but we know that Nastie has been great for the majority of this year as well. I think just the story that these 2 teams in the losers finals is crazy because these were 2 teams that came top 12 last event. They bombed out a Major 4 bad. And, I mean, OpTic came top 12 at last year's Major 4 before going on to win the World Championship. So I just think it's commendable that, I thought Surge were done, really. I thought they'd had their chances in the grand finals and then, they'd fallen off. And I felt the same way about Boston. So I think it's very commendable the work that these guys have put in over the last month or so to keep the faith, keep the confidence, and actually put together a very competent run at the World Championship. And the fact that a grand finals is going to be, between Merc and Neptune on some level, 2 players that came up from challengers just this year. Neptune's career redemption has been mega to see. Merc, he looks like the best player in the game. What is going on right now? Of course, coming from the Omit side, and fair play to Omit because they have a grand finals, I think, today on the challenger side between 2 of their teams. So that's coming up before the World Championship Grand Final. Before we get to the OpTic stuff and the Grand Final of today, Dylan Envoy, tough and beyond disappointing weekend for myself and the team. Obviously from the Thieves side, got a lot left to show at EWC. Until then, we'll see. The other big discussion, of course, really being around FaZe. What's happened with this FaZe team? How do they bomb out top 6 again for the 2nd year in a row? I mean, they brought in Drazah. Last year, at times, they looked like the best version of FaZe you've ever seen. This year, they completed the 3-peats. They won EWC. They won the first major. They won the second major. Pretty unprecedented stuff. And then they've just, fallen off massively at the end of the year. Now, aBeZy, of course, gives his take on this and says, because people are looking at Crowder, right? They're looking at the coaches of the team and they're saying, something's got to give. And I understand that logic. aBeZy says, if you want FaZe to make a coaching change after EWC, it's not going to fix their issues. It is on the players to step up. If anything, it's going to end their window as they will lose their recruiting edge on other legacy orgs when their players dip to follow the staff. That's pretty interesting to hear. aBeZy obviously knows how things are internally. We know that Crowder gets criticism because whenever the FaZe team doesn't deliver what they're expected to, people look at the coaches. They also look at the players, right? But you know how it goes. His opinion is, aBeZy, that if Crowder was to, let's say, leave or get fired or something, then his players would either follow suit or something very interesting would happen. I will say this off-season is going to be rather entertaining, I expect, because we know that Falcons and maybe even other Saudi orgs are looking to come into the scene. They will be looking to capitalize on this FaZe situation. I'm not saying we're going to get a Modern Warfare 2 Thieves, where the World Championship winning team for the previous year totally blows it up. Octane retires and the other 3 go to various different teams. I'm not saying that's going to happen to quite that extent, but I will say that, the FaZe guys are gettable at the very least. aBeZy says if you want to talk about player changes, sure, that's a conversation to have, and I'm sure that we will be. I just think dropping their coaches is eventually going to push all their talent out the door. That's aBeZy's opinion. Do you guys agree? And tweet your thoughts in the comments. These are your KD leaders of the event so far. Only Cellium remains on here in the top 8, as it were. Cellium at a 1.14, Super at a 1.16. Pretty entertaining that Rencor, he's the only guy who managed to get into the top 5 other than the OpTic guys. Merc at a 1.56, Dashy at a 1.44, Shotzzy at a 1.27, Huke down at a 1.2, only a 1.2 of humanity, and then Rencor at a 1.24. Gwynn's here as well, so congrats on that one, I guess. But yeah, Rencor will feel pretty rough about the way that this tournament concluded because he played so well this tourney. Mercury's at a 1.56. Is he going to hold on to the record? It is one of the conversations of today. There are, of course, more telling conversations for OpTic. They would prefer just to win the event. Mercury's is going to be like, look, if I can draw a 0.5 today, Mercury's, if we win, I don't care, right? And that's going to be the logic. And people are saying, oh, well, he's played, 3 series, so if he plays a 4th and he has a KD of like a 1.2, he'll hold on to it. But of course, we know that this could be a very long series, a 9-mapper, and the overall tournament KD will be adding everything up and dividing it all by the deaths, right? So if this series is quick and short-lived, then maybe Mercury's can hold on. It's, even then, Mercury's, the all-time record from Formal is 1.44 KD in an entire World Championship. And yes, that was played over like 30 plus maps, whereas Mercury's has currently played 9 and may play 14 by the end of the tournament, who knows. But Dashy's also currently at a 1.44. It's just pretty bonkers. And Formal actually talked about this and was obviously giving a lot of credit to Mercury's for his performance so far. But he does say he's almost played as many maps as I played in the final. So back in Infinite Warfare when Formal won and he had that crazy performance, they started, well, they didn't start, but they went down to losers OpTic Gaming because they lost to Envy in the winners finals. They then bounced back in the grand finals and won 3-0, 3-1. Or I think it was 3-1, 3-0 they won. So he played 7 maps in the finals in that double elimination, best of 5, double best of 5 setup. And he played 7 maps in that finals. Merc's played only 9 maps so far. Right now, they've won all of them, which is crazy. But I think Formal makes an interesting point. But also, that is the point, right? They've played 9 maps because they've won all of them, right? They've not played any more than that because they haven't needed to. And as Mercury says, this guy is literally him. So what are we going to see for the grand finals? Obviously, people are talking about Drazah and saying that this guy is the best CEO that OpTic's ever had under his domain. We've got 2 back-to-back champs grand finals, maybe 2 back-to-back rings. They're certainly the favourites to do it today. Dashy says GG's Boston, grand finals tomorrow. And he also had a few words on this to say to, well, the guys at the CDL anyway, and says, look, the job ain't done just yet. Yeah, we've made the grand finals. But I think what I've commended a lot with OpTic so far is that after beating FaZe, I wasn't concerned precisely, because I thought they always could beat FaZe. I thought that was in the locker. FaZe could always not deliver at champs, and OpTic could always turn up as they have done and put in the work over the last month and catch FaZe off guard. But I felt like the next 2 series after that, the Toronto one, the Boston one, there was definitely a chance that OpTic, let the foot off the gas a little bit. I would have expected them to still win both series, which they did. But OpTic came in against Boston and Toronto and crushed both of those teams. No mercy, right? Like, just slammed them off the face of the planet. And I think that OpTic would have come into both of those series confident they would win, but sometimes with the OpTic teams in the past, that confidence, can backfire on them because they believe they're going to win. They know they're the better team. They are the better team. Maybe they lose map 1 and they think, damn, we're going to get got. Then in the search and destroy, they start making plays that are not so confident. They don't trade as much. And then all of a sudden the series can spiral. I've seen that so many times over the last couple of years, really. And this tournament, it's totally a different kettle of fish. Like, these guys are coming in steaming every single time, and it's the World Championship Grand Final. They're not going to go easy, are they? Let's be real. Like, they've made it to the Grand Finals. They know what they need to do.
You just booked your spot in Grand Finals without dropping a single map. How are you feeling right now?
It feels great, but the job's not finished. So we know that tomorrow's going to be the hardest series yet, so we're going to give it our all for that one.
You guys look like a completely different team this weekend. Did you just need more time with the roster, or has something else changed?
Yeah, it was definitely time and reps. I mean, it was just obviously one of those things that we were just shuffling rosters left and right. Had a different floor for every major, so then having some stability finally going into the last tournament was definitely nice, just for chemistry and cohesion, so definitely good.
The green wall is getting loud in here. Any message to the fans who traveled out to see you compete?
I mean, the green wall is insane. I've been saying the green wall is global. Wherever we go, they follow. And we appreciate you guys. Thank you guys for getting loud in the venue. We hear you guys. Thank you.
Karma actually reveals that the 3 guys are 3 teams they played a lot of, which makes sense given the bracket, right? So Boston were on the other side of the bracket, as were Thieves, but of course OpTic would have expected maybe to play Thieves at some point if the tournament went the distance. Miami and Vancouver were on the other side of the bracket to them, so they scrimmed a lot of these guys. And pretty remarkable to think about that all of those 4 teams are going to be top 4 at the tournaments. Like, they all finished top 4, and it's going to be Surge in the grand finals. And I just wanted to go through real quick some of the stories for this grand final. This is a cool one that Brian points out, that Karma and Rambo have, as coaches even now, but certainly as players, they have a well, a decade-plus long old rivalry. Both world championships that Karma won back in, well, against Envy back in 2013 in the grand finals where FeLo won, and then the following year on Complexity where they won again. Karma beat Rambo on both occasions for both of those rings. And in recent times, we know that Rambo has had his beef with the OpTic camp, right? The Dashy versus Rambo stuff. Rambo's now on Surge, trying to get that revenge. The Karma-Rambo storyline keeps on going as well. And yeah, there's just so many things that make this tournament pretty fascinating. And I think this is, of all the options really, I'd have liked to see the Miami one, but in terms of storylines, this is certainly a strong grand finals, right? So this is the upcoming game, OpTic Texas, Vancouver Surge for all the marbles. It's a best of 9 series. OpTic, given that they've come from the winner side, will get the V2 advantage in it, but it will be a straight up best of 9, no map advantage, and OpTic, you know, won't mind too much about that because I think they believe that they are by far the better team. Can Surge do it? Can they win a map in finals? That's question number 1. They've played 2 finals so far this year. They lost both of them 4-0. You know, OpTic look like they're going to 5-0 anyone they play, but I don't think it's going to be that clear cut today. But OpTic are clearly the favourites. I have a hard time believing that over a 9-map series, Surge can do it, but I think they're a scrappy team, you know. They can get the job done in the close maps. I think there's going to be some maps where OpTic probably just smoke them, but if they win the close maps, if they clutch up, then they could make this series interesting. But OpTic are obviously coming into today as the serious favourites, and as Skyz says, damn, like, what a couple of months. I wouldn't mind a couch ring for me to conclude the year. So massively intrigued to your thoughts in the comments below. Who's going to win? Hit the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, take care, and I'll see you next time.